What is going on, Grinders? Chief Justice '06 in the building, here to talk about today's pick'em slate. So glad to come on and chat with everyone. And man, I think the sweep is coming. I'm feeling the sweep today. Hopefully, everyone is tuned in, ready to get the winners. So excited to be here. Thank you guys for joining me yet again. And we're gonna ride this thing to the money. So we're going to kick it off. Winning words of wisdom, May 10th, 2023. And this one is coming from Jimmy Dean. I don't know if you guys like food. I like food, and Jimmy Dean makes some very good sausage products and bacon and all kinds of other things. It's got croissant sandwiches in the frozen aisle. For those of you that are possibly health nuts, then you probably don't want some of that. But I like the Jimmy Dean breakfast croissants. At any rate, here we go. Jimmy Dean says this: I can't change the direction of the wind, but I can adjust my sails to always reach my destination. Thought that was a fantastic quote. And to me, it just reminds me about adjusting, right? In this business, in this industry, we always want to make adjustments. I remember back in the old DFS days when there wasn't lineup HQ and there weren't a whole lot of projections, and it was a totally different scenario. And the same thing has happened on the pick'em sites. They've gotten better, and we have to be sharper, and we have to make more adjustments to ensure that you can remain profitable in this business. And so, Jimmy Dean, I thought that was a great quote to kick off today's episode. And so, we're going to start it off again with a quick recap in terms of what happened on yesterday. And so, if you're with us on the season so far in terms of plays right versus plays wrong, 19 plays right is wrong. And yesterday, 3 right, we got 2 wrong. And man, that cost us a little bit here, but let's talk about it. So we had Mookie Betts. We were looking at Mookie Betts. We had 2 props for Mookie Betts that we like, 1.5 total bases and fantasy points. That was a win on both of those. I love it when a plan comes together. That's from the 18. Got a win on both of those in one swing of the bat. Mookie hit a home run in his first at bat, and that took care of both of those props. We took an L on this one. That was Shane Bieber, more than 19.5 pitching outs. That did not materialize. Got the strikeouts yesterday. Detroit was able to run the pitch count up on him, and so we ended up taking a loss on that one. Mr. Giolito, that was one that we said, hey, don't put in so many cards, because we did know that was going to be a weather game. I did like it a lot, but I didn't have too much exposure because of the weather. That was at 5 strikeouts. Giolito picked up at least 5 in the first 3 innings and then was able to cruise. I think he had 8 or 9 strikeouts in the game. So we took a win on that one. And then Charlie Morton at 5.5 strikeouts. We wanted the under there, less than, facing Boston, and he was able to get going early. I think through 3 innings, he had 4 strikeouts. And then he cruised the rest of the way, 100 pitches in 6 innings, I think, and ended up with 7 strikeouts. At any rate, that was yesterday's results, but we are back today to kick this thing off. So this is going to be one of my favorite props on the day. You already know what time it is. We're going to be getting to our screen share here. And this one is coming from the early game. So for those of you that are in this thing early, you're going to get this one right now. And I think this is a fantastic prop on the day. And once again, as I always give my disclaimer, if you're listening in your car, I understand. I will be talking through the statistics as we get rolling. So one of my favorite plays on the day is going to be Chris Bryant. Now, across the industry, this I was so elated about this. On Underdog and PrizePicks. Underdog, we have a projection of 8 fantasy points. PrizePicks, we have a projection of 7.5 fantasy points. I like it when the projections are close, because on Underdog, you get a tick more for doubles and a tick more for walks or hit by pitch, whereas it's 2 fantasy points on PrizePicks. It's 3 fantasy points on Underdog. This is one of my favorite props of the day. So that's Chris Bryant. We've got him at 1.5 hits, runs, RBIs. 7.5 fantasy points on PrizePicks, 8 fantasy points on Underdog. One of my top plays of the day on both sites. Really like this one. Once again, so we look here when he's facing Rich Hill. Rich Hill seems to be getting strikeouts. I'm not fooled. Old man Rich Hill is going to fall off of the hill very soon. but I still think Chris Bryant is going to be able to get to him here. We look on the season, we've got Chris Bryant against left-handed pitching so far, 364 ISO, 416 WOBA, 19.4% K rate, 8.3% walk rate. And we see Rich Hill really struggling. He's getting strikeouts, but struggling to the right side of the plate, giving up a lot of hard contact, 46% hard contact, 281 ISO, 381 WOBA. I think this is a good spot for Chris Bryant. We're going to see that Rich Hill is going to be throwing the curve now. Full disclosure, as I looked at this morning, Chris Bryant is not crushing the curveball, okay? So as we pull this up, we will see that Chris Bryant, in terms of the curveball, and let me get that, yes, this season, only a 67% contact rate on the season, 32.5% whiff rate, 250 WOBA, 174 ISO, 46% hard hit percentage. Not crushing the curveball, but if you look at everything else, he's got the cutter here, the fastball cutter. He actually looks really good on the cutter, right? 64% contact rate, but the ISO, 500 ISO, a lot of power, 66% hard hit rate. This is one, if he gets a cutter down the middle, I can tell you right now, Chris Bryant's going to have a real shot at a home run. And then anything, so Rich Hill's throwing his fastball under 88 miles per hour, and we've got Chris Bryant, 100% contact rate, 502 WOBA, 500 ISO, 42% hard hit percentage, hard hit rate, and that is in 7 batted ball events. So limited batted ball events on the slow fastball, which is almost like a changeup. Good gosh, but Chris Bryant looks really good today against Rich Hill. That's going to be a staple across the industry for me. Once again, 1.5 hits, runs, RBIs. Really like that one. And then I also like the fantasy points. So what I would probably do in this particular situation, as an example, let's say you're playing 3 cards. As an example, I probably split it into a 2-1 scenario. So whichever side you choose. If you take hits, runs, RBIs, I'd probably play that in 2, fantasy points in 1, or vice versa. You know, if you're playing 6 cards, I'd probably just split it down the middle. So that just gives you an idea. I try to get as close to a 50% split on that as possible. And let's hope he hits them both. But just in case he gets a single to start the game, somebody brings him home, he's already covered. And then what we're looking for is, you know, a few extra fantasy points. And if he just doesn't do anything else, he's already hit the hits, runs, RBIs. So, and that could work in reverse as well. I think that's something good to talk about. Like if he gets walked 2 times and steals a base, he's going to be over. Whereas if he walked 2 times and stole a base and didn't score any runs, he's not going to hit the hits, runs, RBI. So I don't want you to think one is better than the other. I think in this particular case, I like them both. I think they both come through for us, but I would absolutely be splitting them down the middle, depending on how much exposure you have to one pick'em projection or the other. So that's that. I really like Chris Bryant today. Like him a ton. Going to move over to someone else here in a different game. Obviously, we're going to go to Edward Cabrera, and we've got Edward Cabrera at 5.5 strikeouts. This is one that I really like today. Me and one of my good friends, Big Dog Kyle, were actually discussing this one prior to the show. I didn't tell him we were going to talk about this on the show. But I actually really like this one. We've seen that Arizona is really not striking out a ton to right-handed pitching this season. And as long as this projected lineup holds true, then I think Mr. Cabrera is going to have a hard time. Now, look, he's got a 29.7% K rate, and I get it, 17.6% walk rate, which means he's going to have some trouble. And it's not that it's a complete split. So he's got an 18.4% K rate walk rate to lefties, 16.7% walk rate to righties for a total of 17.6. And as we can see here, these Arizona Cardinals are not striking out as long as the projected lineup holds true. Once again, I always say low strikeout does not mean no strikeout. However, I do think they're going to be able to limit his strikeout ability today. As we see here, Mr. Rojas, 17.4% K rate. Marte, it's Ketel Marte, not Starling, 16.1%. Corbin Carroll, 26.1% K rate, but does have a 284 ISO. If he hangs it over the plate, he's definitely going to get a piece of it. Christian Walker, 14%. Pavin Smith, 19%. Fletcher, 10%. Moreno, 13%. Thomas, 15.8%. And Perdomo, who's having a really good season, even if he's in the 9th spot here, 17.8% K rate. So I really like the under here. Once again, like I said, are less than the 5.5 strikeout projection. And if you look across the industry, and I will go ahead and give out some industry nuggets. Shout out to Derek Carty and the Bat. If we look across the industry here, we will see Cabrera's projected for the bat under 5 strikeouts. And I'm actually going to pull up Fantasy Labs, one of our sisters here, and we'll get to Mr. Cabrera. I'll just pull him up very quickly. And as we can see here, in terms of projected strikeouts, we've got Cabrera at 5.29. So basically what the projections are saying is we don't think he gets to 6. And with that being said, I'm going to agree with the projections. Once again, I don't always agree with the projections. I do like to do my due diligence, but this is one where, the process that I take and the projections all align feels like a really good number for us today. So at 5.5, I like the less than Mr. Cabrera at 5.5 strikeouts. So we're going to move right along here. Let me check time and make sure. All right, we've got about another 5 minutes and we'll be out. I'm going to stay in that same game. I like Merrill Kelly here. So we're just going to kind of flip the screen. Across the industry, we've got Merrill Kelly at 5 strikeouts. And that's on Underdog PrizePicks. I think he's around the same on Vivid as well. But Merrill Kelly, 5 strikeouts. I'm siding with the over here. We've got Miami, who they've really been striking out the right-handed pitching. Once again, I always say this when we're attacking the Miami Marlins. Luis Arias is not going to strike out, and if he does, it's a miracle. He has a 1.9% K rate. We're not worried about him. What we're concerned about is everybody else. Yuli Gurriel goes in the same category. But as you look across this lineup, there are strikeouts galore. Merrill Kelly, 25.5% K rate on the season. 26.3% to righties, 24.7% to lefties. So I really like this spot for him. And for those of you that are in let's call it the game log camp, I'll just kind of give you the last couple of games. So the last couple of games, he struck out 10 against Washington, which I think is fantastic. Washington is another team that doesn't strike out a ton, but also doesn't score runs. They're just god awful. So 10 against Washington, 5 against Colorado, 7 against San Diego, 3 against St. Louis, which is understandable, 7 against Milwaukee. We definitely have the upside. The situation has presented upside for Merrill Kelly. I think he can pick up 6 strikeouts or more in this particular matchup. Basically what we're asking for is, come on, Merrill, get us 1 strikeout per inning. And if we do that, if we see that, I think Merrill's going to do really well for us. So I really like him today as well. This one is going to be purely a PrizePicks investment here. And this is one where he's already been bumped on Underdog, okay? And so that's really the only reason why we're not able to get in on Underdog. And that's going to be Lance Lynn. We've got Lance Lynn at 5.5 strikeouts facing the Kansas City Royals. And one of the things I like about Kansas City, as a team, they're not striking out as much as you think, but they have enough high K bats to get it done. So this is one of the later games today. And as we pull it up, we're going to see that on the season for Lance Lynn, we've got a 28.6% K rate and a 3.84 xFIP. That's actually really good for Lance Lynn, who, once again, he's going to give up some hits. He will give up some runs, but the strikeouts have been there. What's been an anomaly is typically Lance Lynn has been better to the right side of the plate overall. We've got him at 24.2% K rate to righties. To lefties at 34.2% this season so far in 76 plate appearances. This isn't typical for Lance Lynn. Usually he's struggling more to lefties than righties, but the K rate's been in this season, so I really like that. Once again, you can see the struggles where he's walking guys a tick more, but the hard hit, the ISO, the WOBA, he's giving it up to them, right? So once again, he's going to give up some hits. I think there. We look, Bobby Witt, 20% K rate. Salvador, almost 19%. He could get Salvi. Melendez, 33.3%. Prado, 33%. Olivares, 20.8%. Massey, 39.3%. Those are going to be the bats that I expect him to K at least once. And the other thing about Lance Lynn that I really like at this 5.5 projection, he does have a pretty long leash in terms of the game. So I really like him. He's not someone where if he's at 85 pitches in 5 innings or something, they're going to pull him. He'll come back out and go over 100 pitches. I did look at his pitch count projection today, but it's around 101.5 across the industry. And so I just did not want to get in on that particular investment. So as we begin to close this show out, I'm going to give you a bonus play here. And this is one I wouldn't play it in, let's say, all of my cards. This is maybe a 1 to 2 card investment here. And it's only going to be on PrizePicks. This is going to be of the MLB Live variety. So MLB Live, they basically give us 1 innings, 2 innings, or 3 innings. And then they give us a pitcher strikeout projection that we can use for either more or less. And so we're going to go to the Dodgers game, and this is going to be Clayton Kershaw. So Clayton Kershaw was a guy that I circled for today. We know that Milwaukee, you can see here on the screen if you're following along, that they have really been struggling to lefties. You can see the massive K rates that the Milwaukee Brewers present us here. I was hoping we would get him at a much lower strikeout projection for full game, but we got him at 8 flat. It's not that I don't like 8. I just feel like 8 is asking for a push here. He could absolutely go out and get 10 strikeouts today. However, but to make an attempt to avoid the push, to still get exposure to this high strikeout offense, I like Clayton Kershaw at 28%, 28.4% K rate this season, 3.42 xFIP, and he has a plethora of strikeout opportunities in this Milwaukee lineup. So the option for live is we get 2.5 strikeouts for the first 2 innings. So he would need 3 strikeouts and 6 outs. Basically, half of his outs would need to be strikeouts. I think that as you take a look here, I think that this is something that he can accomplish based on the K rates and low ISO rates of this team. So really like that one, but that's just a secondary play, one that you can add into some of your flex plays. I wouldn't add this one into any powers, although I do like it. Personally, I would just say add it to your flex. So I'm going to give a quick recap, and then we're going to get out of here in no particular order. We've got Lance Lynn at 5.5 strikeouts. We want more than that projection against Kansas City. We've got Merrill Kelly at 5 strikeouts flat. We want more than that projection against the Miami Marlins. In the same game, we've got Edward Cabrera at 5.5 strikeouts. We want less than that projection. Chris Bryant, we've got a multiple prop on Chris Bryant. 1.5 hits, runs, RBIs, and fantasy points, respectively, between PrizePicks and Underdog. 7.5 on PrizePicks, 8 on Underdog. We want more than that projection. And somewhat of a bonus today, we're going with Clayton Kershaw in the MLB Live section at 2.5 strikeouts for the first 2 innings. We want more than that projection. Thanks a bunch, everyone, for hanging out on Take Your Pick'em. I'm Chief. Come in with your pockets empty, leave with your pockets full. We'll see you again tomorrow.